Hi, and welcome to the 87th edition of Keen Minds, where we cover NBC's The Blacklist. This is Season 7, Episode 2, Louis T Steinhil, The Conclusion. I'm Jen, a.k.a. Takata Sayako.
I'm Tessa.
And
what an episode.
Before we get started, we need to make a disclaimer.
Yes, you do.
We had a request to make a disclaimer, and it's fair. This is not a spoiler-free episode. We do talk about things that happened on the episode itself. We will potentially talk about things that are discussed in the previews for next week, in interviews, and any sort of interviews.
Other media?
Yeah, other media that's covered in that, like preview photos and that sort of thing.
We do not have access to any privileged information. We're just fans.
Yeah, we're fans. And we also put forward our own theories, which we do not necessarily say are fact. We just, in some cases, hope they are. In some cases, we hope they're not. We've had those theories, too.
Yeah.
So that's all we got, folks. We do not have any inside sources, so we've got what we know.
Yeah. Now, any episode written by Lucas Ryder, John Balkenkamp, and John Eisendrath is bound to be explosive. And boy, this one didn't disappoint.
Literally explosive. With Russian explosions.
Yep, plastic explosions. Dom, there you go. He may be old-fashioned about his guns, but he definitely likes his explosives.
Oh, Dom. I do love Dom. I knew he was going to have something coming sooner or later.
It may kind of sense because Katerina is also a kind of fiery personality. And they talk about temper and all that. So TNT and temper kind of goes like hand in hand.
Explosives.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. This could be a longer one today because there was a lot that happened in this episode. Guys, I apologize if I have a scratchy throat this week. Tessa was sick last week. I've been sick this past week, and I also went to my alma mater's homecoming football game, which we went into double overtime.
Resulted in a little bit of yelling, apparently.
A lot of yelling. We went into double overtime. Fans got so loud that the other team couldn't hear themselves talk on the field. I'm very proud. Anyway, so if I start to sound like I have a frog in my throat, that's why.
There was not really that much to say about the task force. I mean, Aram, Wrestler, even Liz didn't have a lot to do.
No, Liz's was pretty much there at the end, and same with Cooper. Cooper's big thing was at the end. They played the part of the recap just to make sure everybody was caught up, and I mean, because there's been so much and things are going in so many different directions, it very much feels like your House of Mirrors that you talk about all the time. You know, and so they had kind of this little powwow at the beginning. It was like a recap of this is where we are, this is our point of view and what we know was happening. So the audience is aware where the task force is, since that's usually who we follow through for the most part. And, I mean, that was their point. You had Wrestler and Liz in the field a little bit, which, I mean, you had some nice moments there. I very much enjoyed Wrestler's little comment that they dropped. It was very nice for the writing point of view. Don't think we haven't talked about this when it comes to Agnes being home and Liz's fear about, did I bring her home too soon? What if she's still in danger? What if my mother's a danger to her? Et cetera, et cetera. Because it's the thing that I know we've talked about here on the podcast, and I've just talked about in general, that there are always so many little tidbits that you want, especially if you're like me and are huge on characters and huge on all the little intricacies that go to those relationships. I love those tiny little moments of people discussing things and looking forward to things, and I mean, I would be very happy watching that, but it would slow the show down way too much.
It's like a snapshot that you allow you to know, okay, that moment had been there, we just never saw it.
Exactly. It's like the rest of us can write it in fan fiction, and that's fantastic, but it's nice when the writers find a line or two just to give a nod that this is happening. It's not that we've just completely gone from A to C and skipped over B. It just happened off camera. And they tend to do a lot of that with the Keens when Tom was alive. A lot happened off camera and they just alluded to it. And this was kind of a callback to that, where they just dropped it. It was nice, it was quick, it was efficient, and I was happy with it.
That warehouse was awesome. The warehouse with all the special effects and the costumes and all that.
I think it was the same set as the post office, though. When they were running up the stairs to Steinhil, it looked like going up to Cooper's office.
Yeah. Hey, multi-set.
You know what? It's cost efficient. I mean, they have used that one warehouse with the yellow tinted windows so many times, including this episode. It was in Redemption. It's been all through every season of The Blacklist. It's just, it's probably a very good space to be able to do just a little bit of rearranging, and I can almost guarantee that the casual viewer doesn't even notice.
Nope. In fact, the house that was supposedly Cooper has been used in at least 6 or 7 episodes.
Well, I remember when, I'm trying to remember what episode it was. I think it was maybe, I don't know. There was an episode where they were going into some townhouses. May have been an episode, like, 301 or something like that. They were going, it was. They were going into the townhouses. They were at the very beginning when Liz was about to go on the run. And they were trying to create the alternative space for her. And everyone went crazy, like, oh, are they going back to the Keene house? Are they going back to the townhouse? Why are they doing this? It wasn't. It was just the same setup.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like I said, cost efficient. And 7 seasons in, I'm sure that the budget is, it is what it is. That's what happens when you get further and further into an expensive show anyway. I mean, because
once you get into all this travel explosions, special effects, stunt doubles.
I would much rather them get creative with the setting like that, which they do. They do it well. Much rather them do that than cheap out on the special effects and look at it and go, well, that's a CGI fire, I can tell.
Some of them have been, and you can help it, but I mean, there was a train that it didn't exist. Thumbs up, Z Hadley, he did very well with it. Remember the train in Miles McGrath?
Yeah, that
wasn't there.
Really? That was all CGI.
Yep.
I have a friend that swears up and down she can tell any CGI. I don't know if it's true or not, but she says it is. So
we'll let her believe it.
I can't tell, so
Cooper has probably one of the most significant, and I always say at any season in this show, you're gonna have one character that tells you kind of the theme of the season. And sometimes it carries over more than a season. Like, for example, the theme of seasons 5 and 6 was secrets put people in harm's way.
Yeah.
And that was Tom's line. The previous one was Samar saying monster hunting monsters in season 3 when they were talking about the Vem. And I think that Cooper just had the line that defines this season. They're relatives and there's family.
Yeah, I really, really liked that line. It's because we've talked about this before, about how much Liz will overlook for family. And we discussed it last week when we were talking about, Cooper's line where he says, you used to think this was your father. Now who are you putting everything on the line for? She said, a guy I've come to like. And that's been a running theme throughout it. We've seen her, and we've seen how she just will... excuse me. That she'll overlook so much because they're family. And when she thought Red was her father, when she just... Even the moments where she just wasn't sure he wasn't, she was more likely to run with things. And now... Even though she doesn't think he's her biological father, I think that still there's a lot of it in there that he still feels like her father. He still acts more like her father than she would have thought her biological father could have. And so she's willing to give up a lot for him, but that goes back to Katerina, that there are so many questions about her. She doesn't know if she's good, if she's bad, if she's alive, if she's dead. And I think it's throwing things so out of whack. It is messy. And so to have Cooper kind of redirect that, and I felt like Wrestler sort of echoed that, pre-echoed that.
Yeah, he have said things to that extent, like,
well, I'm just
is a man that cares about you, is like, and that you don't forget that family is the people that care about you, not necessarily people who are related by blood.
Well, I'm just talking about earlier, when they were talking about Agnes in this episode. Just that whole conversation felt very much... It was just a nice prelude to it that, basically keep Agnes close. We're gonna have your back. You need to stop stressing so much you're not doing this alone, sort of thing. We don't have to be biological family. We don't have to be blood. For this to be a family, and it has become a family, and that's Chosen Family is my jam. So to hear everybody saying that now, and
that goes right straight to, and I had it and I just lost it. It goes straight to Tom saying it in the in the christening, and also to Red when he thought he was about to die and said, I'm at peace now because I know that you have people who love you and who will tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And so this is a theme that started in season 5 with like little sprinklings, but now it's becoming the theme, and I was happy because usually the character that will say the line will have a big part on the arc. So I think that Cooper saying that line is going to bring us a lot into who Cooper is and what the relationship is with Red and with Liz.
Yeah. It was very nice. And we started early with the theme of adoption with Chosen Family and moved in both with Sam adopting Liz and Tom's entire arc, like the long-term arc between the Major and the Phelpses and Scotty and Howard and everything he went through, and the fact that they were planning to adopt in the beginning. There's been so much over the course of all 7 seasons so far, 6 full seasons into the 7th one, about Chosen Family. It's been a series-long theme.
Well, that basically takes care of that. Should we go into Steinhil? What a fantastic character!
So, I have a question for you.
Okay.
When he shot himself in the head, did you think he was dead when they walked in there?
I had my doubts, but then my husband, who was watching with me, said, he's not dead! Look at the mask. It was exactly the same pattern as the mask that girl was wearing. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Well, it's not going to shoot himself. The fact that the woman said he's there alone. So when they heard the shot, they were already expecting him to have killed himself.
Yeah.
So, everything in that illusion was perfect. He already had that plan. If something happens, this is what I'm going to do. And then, there's a call that cancels Emmy, and then we get this fake Emmy, which is something that Red has done many times.
I actually really like Steinhil. I think Red should pull him on retainer.
Oh, yeah. Do not kill this guy. This guy would be, imagine him and Sinclair together.
And who?
Sinclair, the double maker, the alibi.
Oh, right.
With the mask
John Noble.
and the whole thing.
John Noble.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. That
together
would be a match
they could do. Yeah. They could do anything.
I have a note in here because we've joked about it before. Always check the pulse. I have a note in here that says he's an illusionist. Rest should have checked the pulse. Always check the pulse.
Well, I think that's the point of the woman saying he's alone. They were already expecting him to be dead. They find a body on the floor. They hear a gunshot. That's part of the illusion. The illusions don't work without the emotional thing.
Well, we've talked about it before. there's such a limited amount of time. I think most episodes are like 42 to 43 minutes long. There is no time in an episode, especially one as packed full as this one was, to show a woman in a funky mask just for kicks. I mean, yeah, it's funny, but like Liz's reaction of what should I be saying here? It was funny, but it has to have a double meaning. It's got to be funny, and there's got to be something deep, or else they're wasting time.
43 minutes is everything counts. Every second counts.
It does.
Somebody was also saying that in Reddit that the name of the person that Dembe gives to Frankie, it's really the name of the stranger. The person who gives identities and finds identity and all that. And there's everything that you do have to have a reason. And sure, there's going to be a little detail here and there that you just throw just to make the scene round and all that. But if you can manage to make it count, you probably will.
This one felt like a tightly written episode.
Yeah, every second there was there for a very specific reason.
This is going to be one of those. Because I wasn't in town on Friday when it aired, and I didn't get to watch it until we're recording this on Sunday afternoon. I watched it first round, like super early this morning, and second round when I got done with church and everything. And I sat down. I'm going, there's so much. I need like 5 rewatches. But I just didn't have time.
Am I the only one thinking that this charade of the illusionist is not done, and this was part 2?
Yeah. I've got more to get into that. I think because there was a comment about puzzle pieces. I think Red said it to Frankie that what was that? Was that where it was? Piece of the puzzle.
He knew that I would jump into the conclusions. I wrote it down because I said, "Hey, that was definitely
it's like
Buckingham talking to me."
I know.
I felt like he was talking to me like directly. So
I felt like he was throwing it out there.
Yeah, I took it too hard. Yeah.
But no, it's like the one quote I don't have in my notes. I wrote so many quotes down in my notes, but it was something about the puzzle pieces and thinking that you have them all and not realizing you don't, or something like that.
Yeah, that you would think he wouldn't see the fingerprints all through all the escape. It was beautiful. You think you have all the pieces, but you only have one. So you're assembling your puzzle and you don't know what you're doing.
I think that there are potentially more illusions going on with Steinhil. I'm not 100% sure if we can trust Frankie. I think we can, because the weapon that they gave her was their weapon. It wasn't something they could have been rigged.
I think that but that doesn't mean anything, because maybe her job was to be outed and say, "Sure, I'm now on your side," and now to eventually infiltrate either the post office, because I have a feeling she might be a cop, or to have her infiltrate Red Operation and lead them to Katerina. Because now with Dom hurt, what is the immediate thing? You may think this is like the assassination of Diaz. That was not supposed to be an assassination, and they were supposed to kill the wife, and yet the guy didn't kill her. He hurt her. So I'm thinking that maybe hurting Tom was the way of making Red reach out to Katerina to tell him your father is in really bad dire straits. So I'm not sure that this whole charade is all over.
I'm not sure that's over, and I think, and I'll get into it more with Red and Dom when we get to them, but I think there was a charade going on there. I think there were a lot of different puzzles getting mixed up here, and a lot of different strings going a lot of different ways. But I have more on that here in a bit when we get down into Red and Dom. Mm-hmm. I don't think everything that was being... And I also feel that way about... I'm still doing air quotes with Katerina, because I have a legitimate spreadsheet going, folks.
Let's go her Fuckerina or Vampirina.
That sounds really bad.
Huh? Fuckerina.
I know what you're trying, like, I know what you're saying, but, like, the way it sounds through my headphones does not sound like what you're trying.
Okay, what do you want to... We need to have a name for her.
Blonde cat. I don't know. I feel like I call, like, Lottie's cat, Katarina, I call her Cat. I don't know. I just started it. I don't think anybody actually calls her Cat in the show. But
Sam.
That's where I picked it up from them. Okay, but anyway. All right. Are we done? Have we gone through? Oh, we're on Steinhil.
Steinhil. So Frankie is an interesting character. I think that she may be the addition to the post office, but also Red may add her because she's definitely valuable. She was a good actress and she's good with a gun, and she's a medic.
And I don't think he knows if he can trust her right now, which is always kind of a strange place for him to be at, because he feels like since she saved Dom's life, and his, in a way. I mean, granted, he wouldn't have been in the situation he was in without her, you know. But because she saved Dom's life, in a way, he owes her that debt.
Mm-hmm.
But she also got them into all of that. So I think he's keeping her close because he feels like it would be... in his own mind, he doesn't kill someone unless they deserve it. And I think that it bought her enough goodwill to buy her life by saving Dom, but not quite to be trusted. And so he's keeping her where he can see her.
Mm-hmm. I agree there. And she's very interesting because she said, I signed up to take out the most wanted. But do you think that when they were saying, hey, you know, we're going to do a charade and we're going to take Raymond Reddington, I don't think so.
Yeah, so and she was also throwing out a lot of names because they made a point with the task force of saying how need to know everything in Steinhil's organization was. If she was just hired off the streets, why did she know Katarina's name? Why did she know Reddington's name?
She didn't know Reddington's name. It's interesting, but also because she said that that's the reason she signed up, because she wanted to take down this guy. She was in the room when this guy was talking about Katerina Rostova.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's still, like...
iffy.
Yeah,
I will give you iffy.
There are things that aren't quite adding up with her story. And being that we met her in the way that we did, I feel like that causes some pause there.
Yeah, she was everything about the things she said, you know, signing up to take it down the most wanted, makes her feel like she's another Samar, like she got there for a reason. Why did Samar get Reddington in the first place? Because all she did was trying to exchange him for someone or call someone to say that they capture him. So obviously he was a pawn in some game, and Red liked her and put her on the task force. So there is something there. I think it's funny because I was like, man, I mean, she would be a nice one for Dembe, and I'm not a shipper, but I was thinking, but really her alignment is wrestler. You know, that she's now having that same thing, like, wait a minute, this is the guy who's supposed to be bad, but the guy who's supposed to be bad is doing good things, and some of the good people are doing bad things, so I don't really know where I'm standing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard rumors that wrestler's supposed to be potentially getting someone this season. I don't remember if that's accurate or not. That may have just been speculation.
Frankie sounds the kind. I mean, she definitely has what it takes to survive in that world. Let's just put it that way. Where poor Audrey was like, you were so dead.
I miss Audrey. I really liked her.
She was a little dopey though.
I mean, we
didn't get
to know her. She just wasn't around long enough to get any depth in her. So, I mean, that's...
She saw people with a gun and run towards them.
She had a concussion. She had a concussion.
Okay, I know. We've had that discussion many times. I still feel that people with concussions should act a little more intelligently. But anyway, let's get on to...
It doesn't matter if you've got a bruise of the brain. Just act right.
Act right is your life. It's very interesting, too, because in this episode, what we have is Red basically doing a little bit of what Wrestler did in that opportunity. And I knew there was a point with my bringing Audrey here. Was that he did exactly what they thought. Instead of calling Dom, or instead of sending a message or telling Dembe to do it, he did it himself, and by doing so, acting on the emotion and being weakened, like the concussion, or wrestler under the scared of Audrey being in danger.
Or even earlier, what we were talking about, the whole illusion of Steinhil's quote-unquote death relied on the emotional response of the woman saying he's there alone, and that's what their expectations were.
You create the expectation, then your mind goes into, okay, this is what happened.
And that's the same thing Steinhil was using against Red when it came to you're paralyzed, and then again when it came to you're escaping. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's used this heightened emotional moment again and again. And
without blood, you're so weak and so confused, and your mind is not working properly. So that's what you needed to do, and it was a brilliant illusion.
Yeah.
Which take us to those entire things going on with Red and Blonde Cat, and I mean, wow, what an episode. And I gotta say, as a writer, I don't know if you noticed, but the drip of your blood, and then that reminded me of Ansel Garin saying, drip, drip, Don, drip, drip. They were, talk about, you're not a killer, he's not a killer, I know you're not a killer. Red said, Tom said to Liz, I know you're not a killer, that's why you're in this mess, and there is the harbor master dead in there. So then there were a lot of those lines like that. I'm an expert about pain, I'm an expert in pain, all the things that the pain will be intense. This repetition of words create a rhythm, so even if they're not a direct thing, they are still bringing you back to episode. So it's like all these lines are coming together.
It's
those
tying things back, even if not directly. It's
brilliant.
Yeah, it's I've had a lot of complaints lately. This episode, I think, was very tightly and very well written. Oh god, where to even begin?
Let's talk about Belgrade and what seemed to be the beef between Blonde Cat and Red.
Oh gosh,
something in Belgrade.
So, hang on, I'm reading through notes because I have that under Red. I have so many scattered notes. So the line was, I know a little bit of something about pain. Red responds with Belgrade, and she says, everything I cared about died. I made a life for myself, family, you blew all of that up. That line there reminded me of Dom's comment to Red in, what season did we meet him in? 3?
3.
Yeah, 3. Reminded me of Dom's comment to Red about taking everything from him. Taking his family from him. And
as far as I'm concerned, you kill my entire family.
Yeah. And so talking about those not directly corresponding lines, but pulling back and pulling things forward, especially as deeply intermixed as these three were for this episode, I have to think that was intentional. Because that entire conversation between Red and Katerina, now granted he was loopy because he was losing blood, etc., etc., that whole thing felt like part of the illusion to me. Like, she was using his compromised cognitive state. Wow, say that 2 times fast.
That's pretty good, yeah.
To manipulate. And this is kind of, just bear with me on this, because this is one of those, it's out there, I have a lot of thoughts on it, and there are a lot of reasons, but putting it into a cohesive theory is still an ongoing process. And that entire, because there are 2 segments of it, and the way she was talking to him was very calculated. Even her, when she exploded at him, it was supposed to be a very emotional moment. I felt like it was a calculated emotional response.
Yet, and I may interrupt you there before you go there.
Yeah.
Yet she tells Steinhil, "I never wanted this." He meant a lot to you. It did. Okay.
I think there were a lot of what did Ron call it?
Lexical ambiguities.
Thank you. I'm having trouble with my words today. I'm sorry, guys. I can't talk. Lexical ambiguities.
Yep.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm running on not a lot of sleep, apparently. Lexical ambiguities. I felt like that was used tenfold in this moment. She was talking to him at one point about Dom, and where is it? Sorry, there's a lot of Dom promised me no one would get hurt, said he loved his child and he just wanted her to be safe. Do I seem safe to you? Mm-hmm. The first 2/3 of that sentence
is one thought,
and then she just tacked the other on.
Yeah, because nobody would get hurt. Do I look like I didn't get hurt?
Yeah.
My family blew up or something happened and I am hiding. I'm not safe. I did get hurt.
There are a lot of he's, while there were a lot of male characters surrounding it. There are a lot of moments, especially with Blonde Cat, where it almost feels like she shifts in the middle of the sentence the point of view she's talking from. She'll be speaking from a third person. This happened, Dom's daughter, and then suddenly me. And it's as if what I think it was supposed to do from a writing point of view, from an episode point of view, is twist things up and really put us all on the what just happened here. What I think it was supposed to do from the character's point of view, I think 2 rewatches in, and that's all I've got for you. 2 rewatches in, I think she was using that compromised state he was in to manipulate him. If she's a double, which is one of my more prominent theories with her right now, that there were multiple Katerinas, either she was just one or there were multiple other than her, etc., then she obviously looks a great deal like the Lottie cat. That
makes sense.
And so he's lost 20% of his blood. He's crazy loopy. He feels terrible. Lots going on there. She's in his face talking about it and then suddenly shifts into that character.
Can I give you now my reading of that?
Yeah.
And I have to go back forward into the episode when Dom is saying that. Dom says something like, "I did what I had to do to protect my own."
I've got that in my notes too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then he says, "I didn't betray Katerina," but Dom tells him, "You tried to have her killed, the woman who's coming for them." So this is obviously, we're talking about 2 different women. His daughter, his own, he protected his own. And this other woman basically left her to dry. And when he did that, he had promised this woman, Blonde Cat, that nobody will get hurt. That he was just trying to protect his daughter. But in the process of what happened, Dom betrayed her and tried to have her killed. When I put all these things together, this is what I see. I see that Katerina went into hiding. And every time I look back and I try to, and for this, when I did this rewatch, I actually went back and watched portions of Cape May and went as far back, some of them like 622 and went all the way back. And one thing, as I started to go back, it really got my attention. If you were planning on disappearing, and this Katerina that we met in Requiem, and the way that Dom and Red talk about her, it's not this scared woman trying to kill herself multiple times, fishing herself out of the water and then going back in and trying to jump up windows and being in despair. That's not the Katerina that we see. Red said she was the most, what is the word she used? The most, I'm blanking out. That she was one of those people who always get out of a dark situation. That she's not this person. So if Katerina Rostova, that Katerina that we've been presenting in Requiem and in Red's way of talking, decided that she had to fake her death, one thing I guarantee that she wouldn't have done, because I want to have one member of the audience tell me that they would have done this. They would have gone and make a beeline for the mother, and not contenting meeting her, let's say, in an unknown street at night in a little town on Long Island. They meet her at the ferry terminal because hello cameras and people around and things. And then they go to Prague where they leave a picture of Liz. No, that sounds to me like somebody was making very deliberate attempts to create a fake trail away from where Katerina really did. And to create a fake trail, you need a fake Katerina. Hello, comes this woman who looks very much like her, a woman who embodied the narrative, which she tells right now, you came to feed me your narrative.
Yeah. And
then and Dom said, please help my daughter. You only have to be seen a couple of times. Go meet here, this person here, be seen over there, create a trail away from her.
Yeah.
And then send killers after her. Like, that is Katerina.
And probably paid her very well.
Mm-hmm. And something happens that then whoever is coming after Katerina thinks is her. And in the process, her family gets destroyed. Mm-hmm. And now she's forced into the shadows. So I think that is that line.
Well, then you have, potentially, if that's, which that does make a great deal of sense to me, potentially if you have that, you have another case of someone who was wronged, maybe not was completely right, but felt wronged, was possibly a relatively normal person before, and then that situation turned them into what they are now. We've had that again and again with blacklisters, where they were, first one that comes to mind is Vanessa Cruz, where she was relatively normal, and then her husband was set up, and she became, what was it Red said at the beginning, he said all along that you become.
We are what we become, and Isabella Stone.
Yeah. You've got multiple
Franco
blacklisters.
Samani.
You have other characters. You have other characters like Tom who delve into characters that they're playing and basically become them. It's back to identity. Who are you really? There was a song back in season 1 that is the title of it. It's Miko something or another. But when Liz. Really? Yeah, when Liz was researching Tom very early on, that song was playing. And that is a running theme of the Blacklist. I like that. That if she was hired, basically, to be the Katerina that they followed, and it ended up destroying her life. Because when you set something like this into play, it's...
the consequences, you can't know where they're going to end up.
Well, you can't predict everything. And that goes back to Reddington, who acts like he's omniscient. A lot of people often think he's omniscient, and then he's not. And sometimes when things blow up in his face, they really blow up. And if he was involved in setting the table for all of this, he and Dom played this
I think
part.
Dom, he's playing Sin Eater for Dom. I think this woman may not have realized what she did. And I also think that she's a relative. That's the thing. It's like, if you're going to find somebody who will look like Katerina, probably a cousin will fit the bill.
Yeah, it's a good possibility.
Somebody, and there is something, and now we're going to go in there, and I think that we're we have had a couple of clues about that. Tom has said you were the architect of this charade. And this charade is not, it's not about any of Ilya and the banks or any of that. Because that charade was to help Katerina after the mess she had created by working with the cabal. And surprising Remington and her father by working with the cabal. So that goes into something that Red said when he's talking with Oban that is great. Katerina Rostova, I may seem like an illusion, but she's one. She's somebody you will never find. She's a figment of the collective imagination. And then she says, we share one soul. So there is two meanings in there. There is either we share one soulmate, or we share one soul, which may mean we were married, as in man and wife become one, or I invented her. There was no Katerina Rostova, the super spy. There was a woman called Katerina Rostova, and I made her into this mythic spy by creating all this bunch of charades and women that inhabited that character, and she was all over the place, and she was doing all these great things.
Like Legat.
Yes, exactly like Legat. So I think that there is, and the way they wrote the dialogue to make all these things is brilliant. For example, there's one point in which is they're talking about the betrayal, and Frankie looks at the sheet of music and said, "Oh, who's Katerina?" This is my daughter. It's like, your daughter is coming to, and he said, Red says it's complicated. He's not saying yes.
It was really interesting how she immediately went to Katerina Rostova, and so I have something in here. Hang on, let me find the notes.
I know you have very organized notes, and I just completely blew them out of place.
For those that can't see our little setup here. I've got an Evernotes file. I use two screens when we record. I have Tessa on one screen with our Skype, and then I have an Evernotes file on my big screen that I scroll through. And I have, by characters, usually, I have all my notes underneath them, and I have just miles of them today. And my spreadsheet at the bottom. It's my growing spreadsheet.
Jennifer went into a spreadsheet, people. It's serious business.
I've crossed onto the dark side. There are no cookies. There's only green, red, and yellow highlighted pieces of the spreadsheet. Anyway, what I was gonna say, what were we talking about? Dom. Dom and the fact that the music was laying out, and that the name was the first thing she went to. And that's okay, there it is. There's my train of thought. Found it. That goes back to what I said earlier that I would come back to. The multiple illusions that I felt like were going on here. Not only was there Steinhil's, there was also Blonde Cat's illusion that I feel like she was doing with Red, trying to use that state to, potentially. That's a possibility. I do like your idea. It makes a lot of sense to me. But then there was Dom and Red, because Reddington didn't even trust Dembe with who he was going to. He didn't trust the task force. He's kept this from Liz again and again and again. Why on earth, with this woman who is already proven to be untrustworthy, would he just start blurting out the entire story of Dom, Cat, everything in front of her, and basically explaining it? And so, couple of things.
Dom was all upset.
There's a couple of things that go into this, and one of them. So, the night the show aired at Homecoming, I was at a bonfire, and I started getting messages from Blacklister214 over on Tumblr, and she's going, "Wait a minute, didn't Katerina marry into the name Rostova?" And I'm going, "What's going on? What's happening here?" And I said, "I haven't seen the episode yet. Let me see the episode to see what's going on." I'm like, oh, great. Did they have another calling Constantine Alexander moment? That's what I thought they might have done. That they just had a slip like that, which they've admitted was just someone didn't catch it. Which happens. Continuity happens.
I have my own thoughts about that, but
Well,
you don't want to go down that rabbit hole now.
Anyway, let me see if I can get through this one. It's like I said, it's kind of all out there, and I'm still trying to drag the pieces in and see what fits and what doesn't. But it was said too many times by too many people, including Red, who keeps calling him Rostov. Red knows better. Said by Red multiple times. Wrestler said it at least once. I think maybe twice. Too many people referred to Dom as Rostov or Rostova during this
wrestler
episode.
Apparently doesn't know how the Russian names work.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. I noticed that. But regardless, it seemed like Red told him that. It was said way too many times. It wasn't a mistake. It was a clue. And so I really, excuse me, I really do think that Dom and Red were running their own con on that. They were throwing a story out there to distract. The one time I think it started actually getting real was the line, let's see.
We can go to a hospital?
Hang on, no, give me a second. I've got it in here, I know we do. Where did it go? Here. So it was the line, he said, did I make mistakes? Yes. Did I deserve to die for them? Maybe. If I die, at least I'll die. If I die, at least I'll go to my grave knowing that I did what I did to protect my own. Why? It was the one, you made a comment about this earlier. That was the point that Red started throwing Tolstoy into it. It was this flippant tone that he got, an elaborate story about Tolstoy and family and all of this. He was trying to shut Dom up. Dom was getting real, he was getting frustrated and upset, and I think Dom was starting to blurt things out, and Red was going, no, slow down, pull it back, you're saying too much.
See, that is very interesting, because usually the one that goes down the rabbit holes, like, I'm not talking about this tiny little thing where a rabbit might just take a little rest. I'm talking about the ones that are furnished and have multiple rooms underneath. Usually those rabbit holes are mine. This time it's different. Jen had one that is even better. It has this is fully furnished. This is everything.
Yeah, I think this is an Airbnb. This is I just bought the place. I'm no longer renting. I purchased it in cash under a false name.
With a shell company. Yeah.
With multiple shell companies. I mean,
yeah, and a shell company to go on top of that to make sure that is all legal. I have
with a bank in the Caymans.
Yeah. I think I have a very different take from yours. This is my own rabbit hole, which is different from yours. So, listeners, you can choose your rabbit hole to go into.
Jen's rabbit hole
on one side or mine. So this is my rabbit hole, and I'm going to go really weird here.
The ground above us is going to become very unstable with all these holes.
Yeah, mine is. I mean, it's there's a whole bunch of family of rabbits living in there, because there's so many rabbits in the show. So, here it is. I know what the numbers mean. The numbers are a code, and the code tells us the story that the blacklist is saying. I have deciphered a great number of them. Not all of them. Is a very complicated, very time-consuming thing that you have to go, because sometimes the way they're defined is something mentioned that character episodes later, and that's the part that fits. But one thing I always knew, and I think it's one of my, actually probably one of my most liked posts in Tumblr ever, is one in which I said the Blacklist is a family story. It's a family love story. And I've always known that there was going to be a family involved in here. And I'm going to tell you what, because do you remember how they defined the King family when in 214? Descendant of a senescent dynasty, they appear to be an eccentric family of trust fund billionaires who supplement their family fortune with profits from their illegal. The kings were auctions, but so the code is there will be one phrase in which it's used to describe the blacklister, and the blacklister of note, the one that is on the list, not whoever they were chasing, that one, that particular one. And that will be the code. And this is the code. And this code tells me that this entire thing is a family story. And now look at all the things that we have had. Every part of this little drama, Kate is playing out as a grand tragedy. And Kate says, family feuds always do. Tom says, family secrets always come out. So now I am totally sure that Constantine and Dom, and possibly Red and the Stranger, and all of them are one big messy family. Why? We have two words here, an eccentric family. They've been talking about Constantine billionaire, and they describe this Rostov as being very eccentric. So to me, that is like, okay, I know this is where it's going. And remember, Dom's name may not be Rostov. He doesn't need to be a Rostov. In fact, if he were a Rostov, he would probably it would be descendant from the male line because he kept the name, and then he will have the same disease as Constantine. And the only way that he could be alive is if he is that uncle who got the Ribowski virus and lived longer because he had the virus.
I don't think he's related to his daughter's husband, though.
Well, because think about, let's say that his mother was the Rostov. Now, that mother by generations will be Constantine parents level, correct? And the grandparents. So if you had, let's say that Dom's mother and Constantine's father were siblings. Now you're talking, by the time you get to Katerina and Constantine, they're like 6 levels removed. They're not even considered to be family. And they could still be the Rostov family because they go back to one common ancestor whose name was Rostov, but they're not even related. I mean, they're not technically, even a second cousin, shares basically just a tiny bit more, and I'm talking like a half a point more DNA than you and I could have. So
maybe, but I
know that it gets people uncomfortable, but this is.
I don't see the point in that. I really don't. I think that the family thing. I think there was a lot. I think there's something there. Absolutely. I think this is about families, and I mean, Megan said at one point this is a love story. I think it is a family love story. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean every family is related. It means that there are sections of families, and doesn't mean that every family is a family by blood. Exactly what Cooper told Liz here. Oh,
I agree that there is family related, family with blood, but I have this feeling, because also you're talking about, this family feuds, family secrets. I think there is something here, and this may be very, remember, this is also people who, if the Rostov got out of Russia in 1917, there is generations that have grown away from each other, and probably in different continents, because they were all over the world. So to me, it kind of makes sense. This is one giant family that is really mad at each other. Really mad. So what else you have in there now that I went back and destroyed your carefully orchestrated notes?
Yeah, this isn't the data. to jump in the middle of a thought process. I won't get it back.
Come on, get it back.
I mean, well, that's basically. I was at the end of the Dom and Red one. That I do believe that they were, for Frankie, that they were putting on their own illusion because they didn't trust her, and I think that there was a lot of that.
Well, Frankie says something very intriguing. Now that you... Oh, okay.
You keep jumping in the middle. I'm never going to get it.
Sorry, this is an exciting episode.
I know, okay, I know.
Go ahead.
There it is. There was a couple lines in here. It said, she knows you tried to kill her, Dom. She wants answers, but she also wants revenge. You set her up, betrayed her. Like, everything that was being said there felt, especially in the lines that Dom gave, I think it was right before that, said, I never betrayed Katerina, she betrayed me. Not just me, her country, our values, our entire way of life. It just felt staged. It felt like they were going through something.
Well, we also have no idea what... If Red and Dom had a conversation where Red told him who this woman is. We're jumping. I mean, he sees him. Oh my God, is he dead? And then the next time he sees him, and they're having a conversation. So we miss if there is a point where Red told him who this woman is. We assume we got the entire conversation, but obviously we didn't, because at one point says, "Hey, you know what? Your daughter is coming after you." No, he never says that. They talk about she and her.
And there we go again with the ambiguities there. But I'm looking at the quote that I have in here about I never betrayed Katerina, and you set her up, you betrayed her, that whole bit, and your whole thought about setting up basically a fall person to make sure that Kat could escape. So it looked like her to set that trail that went very wrong. Those lines make a lot of sense with that.
Yeah, it is what I would do. I mean, and you know, if you could create, and probably the intention was just simply to I am sure that if I had been Katerina, I would, I mean, there's the reason why would you choose Cape May? It's like, there is a huge coastline. Why you need to go to Cape May? Cape May is one that has one particular distinction, a very short space between there and Rehoboth Beach. And it was simple to get a boat and drive across. And then once you fake your death, why on earth are you going to be going around, especially looking like Katerina, the red hair, you know, the long hair, red hair, like, no, I mean, like, could you do something more, like putting I am Katerina Rostova, like in a hat? I mean, what is the first thing Liz did when she went into hiding and running? Dyed her hair. Yep. And she made it different. Instead of being flat and brown, she made it wavy.
Ooh, there's a thought. When she dyed it blonde, we now have a blonde Katerina.
Yep. It's a hiding thing. You wouldn't, I mean, it's ridiculous. And if they were following a trail like that, it means that it was a trail meant to get beloved following that trail. And then probably the idea was simply to just disappear because she wasn't Katerina, so she could go back to her family. And something went wrong. And this assassins coming for Katerina ended up making a big mess in Belgrade, and she lost her family.
Yeah.
And a relative fits the space because, hey, somebody who already looks like them. They don't need to do any surgeries or anything.
No, that does make a lot of sense. Coming back around into some different territory here. The Townsend Directive.
So fun stuff.
I have a list here that I'm hoping you'll be able to add to, of things that we know about the Townsend Directive. We know it came out of Miami because Dembe. Well, we know that Dembe learned about it from a guy
from the guy in Miami.
And that Dembe didn't know what it meant. So we know that Dembe didn't seem to know what it meant.
I think he did. He said it's critical, it's
No,
important.
he said, is this important? And Red's response was, it's critical, but not as critical as knowing why you're back.
Whoa. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna take your word for that.
I believe that's the case. Feel free, we can come back and correct if I'm remembering that incorrectly.
And now I have to look. I have to look. I'm like, this kind of things drive me insane. Yep, it's me. I mean, it's insane. Well, I accept I'm slightly insane. I mean, I have clue boards and they're electronic, but they're clue boards nonetheless.
Tessa is that meme with that guy with all the different.
Okay. The Townsend Directive. Our friend in Miami says it's in play. Red asks, is that why you're here? Dembe answers, he says it's very important. Red says it's critical, but not as critical as knowing why you're here.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of. He says. So Dembe never says it's important. I just didn't get the impression Dembe knew exactly what it was or what it pertained to.
It could be. I mean, I think
it could go either way. It could go either way with that.
Like anything that could be left not defined is done, because why not? Well, you're going to waste that.
Yeah. And so potentially Dembe doesn't know what it is. Steinhil said that the Townsend Directive is a standing order to kill Rostova, and that it's very much in play.
Mm-hmm.
She calls it, the blonde cat calls it a death sentence. But that doesn't mean necessarily. We don't know if it's her death sentence or if
even
it's
with your help,
Liz's
I can't outrun them. There's only one way to survive. I have to give them what they want. Tell me how. And what they want gotta be Katerina Rostova, the real one.
That's my thought too. Ow.
Yeah. And there is also something in there that says, the nurse says, all I know, Katerina Rostova hired him because she thinks people are trying to kill her, and that you might know how to stop them. The plan was to con you, not kill you, to get you to tell Inspector Oban who the assassins are and what they or you might know about her sources and safe houses. And the thing is, where is this woman getting all that money? That was an expensive outfit she did for that little con.
Yeah. And my guess is Steinhil doesn't come cheap.
Oh, no. They said that he pays very well his people, so imagine what he gets for himself.
Yeah. And so, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that we've had countless blacklists, well, not countless, but we've had multiple blacklisters that have seemed like they're relatively normal people that have suddenly become more because of what's going on in their life. And so they've become what was expected, what someone said they were, or like potentially Red did, or what they felt like they needed to get the revenge or whatever else they needed to do. I mean, fairly normal people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that this blonde woman was normal. She may have been, Dom was a handler for the KGB. She could have worked under Dom.
I don't know that is true, but yeah. I find it very interesting. In your 43 minutes, they keep hammering to things like that. It was our way of life. It's almost like they go all the way to making Dom make sure that he's Russian, except he doesn't have a Russian accent. And he spoke Russian in this thing, but he also says Mother of God and called nappies and things like that. So, yes, they're working really hard in making us believe that he's the Russian one. But meanwhile, Katerina's mother, the one whose cover story was that she was Russian, that means that she couldn't pass as anything else. She had a Russian accent or whatever. There's no way that anybody could believe that she was, I don't know, Lithuanian. That's how Russian she looked. um, and sounded. She's the one living in America, but Dom is the one in Moscow. I don't think so. I have a feeling that we're going into some also very interesting territory there because there is a lot of assassins to come for Katerina. The Osterman Umbrella Company, the Love, coming to get her, and it wasn't just to say hi. They were going to drag her back to the KGB and make sure that they knew everything that she has said and done.
The
And
Cabal.
now, the Cabal and the Townsend Directive. I mean,
Well, we don't know who the Townsend Directive is coming from, and that's the key there. We don't know who's behind that. If I were to make my guess, I'd say the Cabal's coming back in, because last week they mentioned the Cabal again, and whenever they bring something up like that to make sure that you know it's pulling your attention back around, don't forget about these guys. We haven't mentioned them in a while. Don't forget about them.
Mm-hmm. I am certain that the Townsend Directive seems more like the stuff the Cabal will do, which is basically just get assassins. It reminds me of Wendigo, and there's multiple assassins that are all coming for her, and she's being crowdsourced for murder. The Townsend Directive has a little feel for that, for Ariel Kane and the deadnotalive.org, and just putting money there to see whoever gets her. So basically the Townsend Directive feels like the Wendigo assassins, the deadnotalive.org. And the Osterman Umbrella Company, Red made it sound like it's basically the intelligence agencies use them, not the Cabal. I mean, the Cabal could have used their own people to do that, but it's generally looked like the people got together and say, okay, this agent is really a problem. We got to get her terminated. And that wouldn't happen unless she was CIA. So I think that we're going around to understanding that Katerina had to have been CIA. Besides, she had to have been either CIA or American, because otherwise she can't be a traitor to the United States. If you're a Russian citizen and you are working for Russia, you're not a traitor to the United States, no matter what you do.
Who said she was a traitor to the United States?
Red said. And she said it to even Kate. And Red said Katerina was a traitor to two countries. And then when Red is actually talking to Jennifer, he's talking about somebody who's chased by the CIA and the KGB, and which was not him, and was not Reddington. It has to be Katerina Rostova. And so I think that the only way that Katerina can be a traitor to two countries is if A, she's American, therefore she has American loyalties, and she can be a traitor to the United States, but in order then to be a traitor to, which we know she was a KGB agent, so by being an agent and betraying the country she's working for, she's also a traitor to them. Or that she was a CIA agent and then she can be a traitor to both. But definitely, it's not as simple as this is this Russian girl who was born in Russia and whose daddy lived in Russia, and then she did all these bad things. It just doesn't work.
It's not cut and dry. And honestly, it would be boring if it was. Because the Blacklist, I mean, there's so many twists and turns, and...
Well, that's what you expect. Suddenly now Katerina is a CIA agent, and she was always working for the CIA, and she was infiltrating the KGB. Now that starts to sound like the kind of charades Red likes. The other thing that is interesting in the not Katerina thing, that, Blonde Cat is not Katerina, is that, do you remember that little drawing that Liz had in the Summer Palace, and there was also in the... how would Katerina not know where her father was when there was a drawing made either by her as a child or by Liz as a child of the same house where he's... I mean, it didn't occur to her to go look. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's very clever.
I mean, was it supposed to be the same house, though?
Blue door. A brown house with the little windows and the blue door.
Okay.
So... Tom had at that house, at least since Liz was a child. And we don't know if those drawings were Liz's or Katerina's as a child. So if they were Katerina's as a child, that's like how she has been going forever and ever.
Yeah.
So the idea that she needed Red to tell her what the house was, not to mention that she had given a key to Dom about 40 minutes away, how that works.
Yeah.
I mean, but kudos. We're getting much better at reading through the illusions, like Red with the illusionist. And I'm sure they're pulling like 10 of them over us and we don't even know it.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I'm in awe of all these things. It was, oh my God, and the woman, I mean, Layla Robbins, oh my God, she killed it when she's like crying and like, I don't want to do this. And
yeah, she's impressive.
Very much so. I'm very glad they got her. And she's and my God, when she met Liz, can we talk about that moment with Agnes?
Oh, Agnes and her ears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very interesting with the, having Agnes call out that she's not Mrs. whatever the name was. They certainly went out of their way, and I think Blonde Cat went out of her way to make the comment, "You remind me of my granddaughter."
Mm.
I mean, if she has a granddaughter, maybe she does. I mean, if she lost her entire family in Belgrade, then probably not.
Could be that she intends to make Liz believe that she's her daughter,
and that's a possibility, and that she
that they're
eventually
not dead.
She eventually wants to make Liz believe, to trust, so that she gains her trust that she is Katerina Rostova.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that would be an interesting route. Yeah.
I think that they will go that way fully. I mean, it would be like this woman telling her things, and she would be like, "But you can't tell Red because he will kill me."
Exactly.
And it will again put her. It's like everybody has been in a fight, between your parents, and you're like, "Just disappear me here, please."
Yeah.
I don't want to be in here.
And I could definitely see it going that way. It would be interesting. It'd be absolutely fascinating to see that. I think that's one of the few things I might... Because, like, when I heard that she was going to be the nanny and everything, I was like, oh my God, really? Like, that could get really, really obnoxious. But if that's the route they're going, that could be very interesting.
Not to mention that, now that we're doing spoilers, this is a spoiler, guys, so if you don't want to hear, advance 10 minutes, did you notice the book that she's reading? Oh, you didn't see it. Which book is she reading? What? Little Red Riding Hood. She's reading a book. About? She's reading a book to Agnes.
Is this in the previews?
Yes.
I haven't seen the previews. I didn't watch it live, so
okay.
I'll go look after.
She's reading Little Red Riding Hood.
Interesting.
Yeah. And just, it's like, I'm your grandmother. Yeah. You remind me of my granddaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the song that he's playing is I'm Running with the Wolves.
I'll have to go watch that.
Yeah,
then.
They don't do subtle things.
No. I mean, they do, but they also hit the nail on the head a lot of times.
Now, do you think that Belgrade thing has to do with Luther Braxton Belgrade?
I don't know. I mean, because I don't remember enough about that to...
It was just a robbery or something gone wrong. Some German francs or something, German marks.
Could be. I mean, it's kind of one of those wait and see moments. All right. Well, gosh. Is that about it?
You think your family's dead, or you think your family's lost to her? That she had to hide them and she can never see them again?
What was the exact phrasing? I've got it in here. I'm trying to find it.
Everything I cared about died that night. I made a life for myself, for my family, a family.
I got the impression, I took that as they're dead. I mean, it's the phrasing. It could be something else.
What a coincidence. These guys are like total freaks about creating things that can be read many ways.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it's a skill. So, do you have anything else
I think,
in your list?
God, my notes are so convoluted. When I have so many notes, it's what it gets kind of chaotic. I think that was about it. Oh, the one more thing that I had for it's in my not cat list. Just the way she refers to Dom. It didn't even strike me as a daughter angry at a father.
Mm-mm.
It struck me as, I don't know, anything else.
And she kept talking about Raymond, like, Raymond, we're here, this is over, come
Yeah.
up, instead of saying, hi, Daddy.
Yeah, I mean, like,
miss me?
If I were an angry adult daughter and I'd felt like my father had destroyed my life and gotten into cahoots with my ex-lover to destroy my family, etc., yeah, I mean, that would have been exactly,
I'm home.
Hi, Dad. Miss me? Exactly. And so, and she referred to him as the old man. Bring me Dominic. It's just everything about it to me felt very. If she's the real Katarina, then I have well and thoroughly convinced myself that she's not by the end of this podcast. I think I'm good on the convincing there.
I need him alive. I'll save his life. Yep. It's all about it. It's the use of pronouns is perfect, and every time you hear his, and it's the same thing with the conspiracy. I'm sure that the conspiracy say Diaz will be killed, and the what was the name of the officer? Miles. No, the other Miles, the one with the dossier, jumped head in and thought they were referring to the president, and it was the other Diaz. It was his wife, and it's the same thing that happened in season 2 when Lord Baltimore is hunting, and he said to we're gonna get Reddington now, and you think that then Reddington is taken by Samar, and you think that that's Berlin, but no, Lord Baltimore is going for another Reddington, Mrs. Reddington.
Yep.
So I think that they use this thing so well.
Yeah. It's been good, and it's it's a wild ride.
Yeah, and I know people were like, "What?" And a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is bad writing." They forgot that that Katerina is Rostova because she married Rostov.
And that's the thing is when I first heard that without seeing the episode, I was like, "I don't know, guys, really, did you do the thing?" And then I watched it and went, "Oh no, this was intentional." It's once is a mistake potentially, multiple times is a clue.
Mm-hmm. And whether it is what you said, that they were that Red was trying to distract Frankie, or whether he is a Rostov as meaning, like somebody had a very good example in Reddit. Is like all these Kennedys, we keep referring to them as the Kennedy family, but their last name is not Kennedy. They're just part of the Kennedy clan. Like the kings in England, they have all different names, but they're the same family. They're all related. So I think that there is whatever the reason that they're doing that is definitely not is intentional. It's not a mistake. And I even have my things about that Alexander thing, which are so down the rabbit hole that I'm not ready to explore.
All right, well, that's about all I have.
That's all I had. I'm just waiting for the next one, and definitely waiting for to seeing Blonde Cat and Agnes.
Oh, that's going to be wild. All right, guys. Well, you can listen to us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. And you can talk to us on Twitter, on Tumblr, and on Facebook. And so we're sorry for any spoilers that we gave last week. We had a new listener that we accidentally spoiled, so sorry for that. And hopefully we will be able to catch ourselves before there's anything too spoilery. So.
And until next week.
All right, we'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.